And then going into autumn, we're going to do a kind of spin on a amber beer. So if you guys, German alt beer called Alt Amber, which was one of our prototype challenge beers last year. Each year we do a prototype challenge where we make 4 test batches, then we sell them on our online shop, and then people vote as to which beer we should make more of. So we love involving our customers as much as possible in the decisions when it comes to what beers that we're making.
You said an Alt Amber?
Yeah, so it's an alt beer. Yeah, Düsseldorf alt beer. Yeah.
This should go very well with sushi.
Yes, it's just a pity we don't have any here.
Well,
Unless anyone's got a salmon in their suitcase. Which
well, we're Norwegians, but not thanks.
we got very nice ones.
Reminds me.
And you'll see our sheet like this with the cone at the bottom. So we've dry hop, and the dry hops eventually settle out, but then we've got our rack and pour here. So we're taking the clear beer off the top of the dry hops, whereas most small brewers, everything just comes out in a guddle, but then we can leave the dry hops in the tank. And it just means that what we're putting through our centrifuge, we've got a better chance of keeping all the flavour in, but getting the beer to look visually appealing in the glass, which I think is quite important to us.
Flavour in there without so much bitterness. Yeah.
And for me, the hop character in this one, it's a really nice mix between that kind of tropical stone fruit citrus, but it's also got a little bit of that kind of spicy, tiny kind of resinous kind of note in there just to kind of ground it as well.
Yeah, it's really big on mango and passion.
Yeah, it's so juicy, it's unreal.
Yeah.
And the
It's
mouth
bitter as well, it just goes on and on and on.
It's a big beer. I mean, myself and Martin are double IPA geeks, and we've been fortunate enough to spend a lot of time out in the US, visiting, drinking with, speaking to the kind of best US draft brewers. So this beer is kind of born out of our experience enjoying the best American double IPAs, but also speaking to the people who make them in terms of the techniques and stuff that they use to get that kind of impact of hop character in there too.
What are your favourites? What are your favourite American double IPAs?
Well, it's not a double IPA, but it's kind of hopped and bittered like one. I think Sculpin is Sculpin by Ballast Point.
Or the first release of Enjoy By as well.
Yeah, first Enjoy By. There's a Three Floyds one. They've got a few not Dead Knocks. That's kind of more on the malty side. I think it's a Arctic Panzer Wolf by Three Floyds, which is their super well attenuated and evil sharp, kick you in the face ones.
Yeah.
Apart from yourselves, what other British brewers do you think are brewing this style well?
I think Beavertown made a couple of really good double IPAs. Magic Dock do them well too. So yeah, I would say those guys.
Have you guys got plans to do like a Born to Survive, like the Enjoy After?
Not yet, but the next beer that we're going to taste
That's great then.
yeah, I know. Thanks, I'll take that and not pretending at all. Let's do it. So what we're also looking to do with Equity for Punks is to build a sour beer facility, but then as well as sour beers, we'd like to make a few kind of throwback beers, so take IPA right back to its origins, take Porter right back to its origins. So like I think IPA back in the 1800s had to have had a kind of big Brettanomyces character in it, and that's what Enjoy After is, and that's something that we'd like to do when we build this custom kind of sour experimental beer facility.
Yeah, so the sour beer we'll taste in a second is kind of a controlled lactic souring, so we allow it to sour in the kettle, but obviously the main brewery is right next door to the pilot system, so everything has to be done in a way where after it's soured we obviously sterilise it to take it back to kill off all the bacteria, and then we can ferment it out. And it is risky, but it's a controlled risk, and then our lab team are all over it, swabbing it after every time they've brewed to make sure there's no lactobacillus going anywhere that it shouldn't be.
And that lab team is so important to us. I mean, we've got equipment here again that we've invested heavily in. Do you guys visit the lab?
Yeah, we do.
So things like gas chromatography and
Yeah.
like the in-house analysis and stuff that we can do there, just because the quality of the beer is what we live and die by.
They're
It's
working
massive,
their socks
massive
off in
purpose.
there. I can't believe the amount of stuff they do. This is the column, isn't it, Michelle?
So for us, I mean, the team, the people is
Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel.
Yeah.
It's so important. So we became a living wage employer last year, but that's just part of what we do for our team. So there's a huge emphasis on personal development. We've got more We've got the second highest amount of certified cicerones in our company as any company on the planet, so we invest in that, but we pay for the exams. We give people pay increases for each level of cicerone that they pass. We do something very similar with IBD, International Institute of Brewing and Distilling. We're in the process of creating a Scottish apprenticeship for beer making and beer packaging, so investing in our team and our people, and we're lucky that we work with like a phenomenal team here, which is
Yeah, we've got a huge sensory project that starts
yeah.
2 weeks' time, where our first batch is like 30 of our staff getting through the Aroxa, our Cara technology sensory training scheme, so we'll end up with a huge pool of people that we can use in our tasting panels, and we'll know exactly how sensitive people are to different compounds and be able to have a very
People don't love us, that's cool too, and if we try and keep everyone happy, we're just going to lose the essence of what we're about as a company, so we don't care.
I do care, and I cry myself. Nice.
I'm telling you that, you're either bloodshot from the crying.
He's like counselling.
Does it help that you're up here in that way? So it's like your fastness, you know, this is the place, you know, no one can touch you up here, so this is beyond the wall.
I think it's easy to hate us from a distance, which is why we're always so keen to get people up here. Come up here, meet our team, see what we do, see the passion we have, see like taste the beers and stuff. But yeah, I think whatever you do, some people's going to like you, some people's not going to like you, so we're cool with that.
You've been pretty loud at times as well, so
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So.
Thank you.
Not everything you do, but well,
Yeah. And,
I mean the total package.
yeah. And looking back, I mean, we don't love everything that we've done, but we started this company off when we were 24, and I used to work in a fishing boat with no experience of running our own business, no experience of doing anything. We've done some things which are awesome, some things which are not so awesome, but I think overall we've done kind of okay.
Following from that, then, what are your biggest regrets?
I think we're pretty happy overall with what we've done. I mean, what was tough for us the last couple of years that we were in Fraserburgh, we were pushing a tiny, cobbled together system to within an inch of its life, and we had to push that system so hard to generate the money that we needed to make the step here. But pushing very basic, cobbled together equipment that hard, there was a couple of years where their beers were more inconsistent than we would have liked them to be, and that's something that we regret, but there was no other way for us to get to this, so it was something that we had to do, but that would probably. But it's something that we were open about, something that we discussed on our website with our drinkers and stuff, and something we could hire.
Yeah, I think it's just general growing pains of a brewery growing quickly. You know, we didn't have much of a lab. We didn't have any real control systems on the process. You know, everything was done with completely manual valves. So if you've got 6 people brewing your beer during the week when you're running 24/7, if they open the valve a little bit differently each time, then by default you get inconsistency through your beers. But I think in general, for what we had and how big we were as a brewery, everything was kind of done as best as we could. And then, as soon as we could have some money to invest in better equipment and better procedures and more people and more experience and more lab equipment, then every time we've made money, it's been reinvested to make our beer better the next year.
So we've never taken a dividend at all from the company, and everything that we make, we invest in our beers and invest in our people. And if people don't like us, we obviously just judge us on our beers and put something like this up against other UK double IPAs and make your mind up where you think we should sit.
When did you move here?
We moved here at the start of 2012.
And what's the total investment that's gone in here?
Total investment that's gone in here to date is just over 20 million, but the new facility that we're building, that'll be an additional 25 million. So by the end of this year, that'll be close to 45 million. And every single penny of that is spent with one purpose, and that's to make the best beers we possibly can, and that's all that we care about.
How do you raise the money? Apart from selling beer, obviously. I mean, there's a lot of money.
Equity for Punks has been a key thing for us. So far with Equity for Punks, we've raised over 12 million across the 4 different funder rounds. And we've always been solidly profitable as a company, which is important to us. So we invest the profit, we invest the equity punk money, and then we've also had support from our bank HSBC. So it's a combination of those things.
Do any other breweries own any part of the company, I suppose?
Any other breweries, no, but we've got two American investors who are Keith Dagger and Tony Folio. They own about 9.5% of our business, and they also own Anchor in America, which is one of the best, most iconic, kind of like the first American craft brewer. So it's amazing to have that partnership in that one.
Did you say 9%?
It's between 9 and 10,
Yes.
and it's moving about depending on the equity pump coming in because that dilutes is there. So it's, I think 9.5.
I just got a referral.
Nice.
How many?
6. Five was my target though. I'm not pushing it too hard. I just want that beer.
I got 2.
I actually tweeted out my code and 2 people used it, which I was like, just quite surprised. And just back to this beer, the other cool thing about it is, for 8.5%, just how light it is. So we've used only very pale malt in there, and we don't want to kind of cloud the hops kind of too much malt complexity. So this beer is all about the hops, so super pale malt body, just gives you enough of a kind of malty, biscuity backbone to let the hops really shine.
Yeah, 4 of our favourite hops: Amarillo, Citra, Simcoe, and Mosaic.
Beautiful.
Did
Are you using any British hops?
In some of our darker beers, we use some UK hops, but I would say it's about 90% from Washington State.
Is it?
Yeah.
I was wondering, do you get them direct or do you go via the other?
Not direct. So we've actually got the CEO, the CFO, and our main buyer from Yakima Chief Hop Union. They're here today and tomorrow. So they've come across from America just to visit.
They're joining us for dinner tonight.
So, yeah,
they're joining us for dinner tonight. So if you guys want to know about American hops, we have the American hops.
I'm sure Dennis will stand up and give us a half-hour presentation on American hops.
Really good.
Did he?
Stop asking me about Australia and New Zealand hops.
Did either of you ever visit that fake Brewdog bar in Shanghai?
No, I wanted to, and it was something we were kind of excited about as well. But unfortunately, it's changed into somewhere that you now bet on snails racing,
Oh, okay.
which is
Great.
let's go.
Perfect sport when you're drinking beer. You got to beer.
I'm not sure it counts as sport.
Actually, we did that at the first Beer Bloggers conference. So we were betting on snails in one of the what was the name of that bar? I'm gonna remember. It's so long ago. Yeah.
Dirty Nelly.
Yeah.
So whose idea was the sour beer facility?
All of our ideas come from one collective consciousness. Or they're all the dog's ideas.
It's something we've wanted to do for a long time. When we moved out of Fraserburgh, we used Fraserburgh for a while to start making some Berliner Weisses. It was just too hard to come into a new brewery and get this up and running and run the old brewery at the same time, so that we eventually shut that one down. And then with the pilot system here, we're doing, like we said, controlled sour beers, but the ultimate goal is to get a facility where we can just go wild with literally.
Go wild. Would it be like it has to be contained then, because you've got lots of wacky.
Well, you just don't want it near your.
Yes.
You know, we spend all day and all night making sure this is as clean as possible, so you don't want any wild yeast or bacteria migrating across.
So this one is.
Sorry,
Can I just very quickly ask?
Yeah.
Someone's tweeted saying, how can they get hold of Born to Die? So when's it on?
Born to Die will be launched on our website and our bars next Thursday.
Great, because he's going, I want one now, he's just tweeted me, so I need to tell him before he has a hashtag.
So the Blitz beer will make it Fraserburgh while you're brewing.
So this one, the final beer in our tasting just now, is something that we've made in our 10 hectoliter pilot system, and for us it's really important as well as our relentless focus on making our core range beers like Punk and Dead Pony and Jackhammer as good as they possibly can be to do things which are kind of really out there and different, and that's key to our business. So this one is a deconstruction of one of our favourite cocktails, a whiskey sour. So we've tried to kind of recreate those flavours in fermented form.
Yeah, so the base beer was just a lactic soured ale, and then once we fermented it out, it had a hell of a lot of lemon in there. I'm sure you can taste that. There's some spices in there as well. A little bit of there's a touch of cinnamon, a touch of nutmeg, and then there's whiskey a cut-up whiskey cask. So the chunks of stave went into the bourbon cask.
Yeah.
So it's a cut-up bourbon cask that we put into the tank to allow the bourbon character to soak out into the beer. But you can taste the sourness. It's pH 3, so it's got the same pH as actually biting into a lemon. So it's really, really tart.
Does it have a name?
It's just called whiskey sour, so it's just a tiny batch. It's just keg only. So yeah, kettle soured. So we soured it in the kettle. A lot of the kind of darker traditional caramels in there to give you that kind of sweetness, kind of bourbon, kind of slightly spicy kind of sweetness, and then bourbon soaked oak cut up from a bourbon cask in there with lemon juice, orange juice, and some lime juice after fermentation too.
Do you think? Sorry.
Interesting, because it's kind of sour in a bit different way.
Yeah.
More close to lemon.
Yeah.
But do you have a name for it?
Whiskey sour.
Oh, just,
You can't call it whiskey sour. The Siren had a beer called whiskey sour.
Oh,
I think it's called Pilot 008 Whiskey Sour.
yeah. We just have 20 kegs of it, and no one except us is going to sell them. And I think this must be the second last keg because it's been honest. Yeah.
and what strength is it?
It is 7.
A session beer.
You
Session beer for a Friday in Scotland.
Well, exactly.
Session relative to an actual whiskey sour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Session whiskey sour.
You're planning on opening a distillery.
Yes.
Do you think you'll do whiskey?
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to do a wee bit of distillation up here, and a lot of the breweries that we love, if you look at Dogfish Head, if you look at Anchor, if you look at Ballast Point, they've all got kind of really small niche distillation operations on site too, and that's the kind of thing that we want to build here.
Because Adams does quite a good little
Yeah,
distillery
Adams
down
does
there.
as well.
Just some nice little bits and bobs.
Yeah, something whiskey we're really passionate about. I think probably 70% of the people that work here are kind of big whiskey fans and buffs. So we're really excited to start making some Scotch and see what we can kind of do to make Scotch kind of up to date and interesting again. And then we'll also have a column still as well, so we can make our own neutral spirit that we can have, a gin or vodka as well, some white spirits as well.
And what you should do to the people that kind of tweeted you hate that you were coming here, just tweet back, I completely agree, and Martin is the most despicable human I've ever met. Just tag him, at Martin Dickey.
I was just like,
At Martin Dickey's a fucking asshole.
I actually said, I don't give a crap what you think. Another thing, there's so many other breweries you can go and visit. It's like, I don't give a crap what you think.
You can visit them
You're
too.
on the journey. I'm on the journey.
Well, that's the thing about beer though, it's like football or rugby.
It's like tribal, isn't it?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But on one level it's great, on another level it's like, really? It's just beer.
But I mean, our position has always been the more people that's enjoying good beer, then the better. And everyone that making good beer is going to do. And if you look at the States, craft beer is 16% of the market, and they've done that through working together. We're doing that market share.
16?
16.
Money-wise, they're 19.
Huh?
Money-wise, they're 19.
Oh, it
But
might be-
11 in volume and 19 in...
Okay.
volume.
Wow.
So, yeah, so,
Last
yeah,
year,
19, that must have been last year's.
Yeah, that's still going. So.
Yeah, and what we want to do is we want to get people really passionate about great beer. So if it's our beer, it's beer from Kernel, Sourdough, Magic Rock, Lovey Bonds, Brew by Numbers, Ballast Point, McKellar, and that's why our bars we still half of our own beer, but also half of what we do is like a carefully curated selection of our best beers from all over the planet.
So is there a little exclusive club then in that you talk to and kind of confer with other breweries that you like you mentioned, Magic Rock, Beavertown, that sort of thing? Is it only those guys, or are you open to any other brewery going, actually I'd like to talk to you guys about how you do things and what you do?
Yeah, no,
Open to that?
completely open. So we have loads of breweries visit us and take a look for our system, so we're completely open. We're just about to put a Google map of our whole facility online, so anyone can come in and have a tour about and see exactly what we do here. So it's a pretty open thing to do. But yeah, anyone wants to come and visit, well, the team will spend time with them. We'll talk through what we do here, and I think it's that sharing of knowledge is so important. And we're involved in setting up the I don't know if you guys have seen it at UCB with Beavertown, Camden, and Magic Rock, so it's the United Craft Brewers in the UK, which will be the UK equivalent of the Brewers Association, and that's to promote and protect the interest of UK craft brewers, but also share knowledge within the craft beer community, so everyone can make better beers and change the face of the UK beer industry, which is what we want to do.
I haven't heard of that. When is that?
When was that?
It was announced quite low key about a week ago.
Okay.
Was that
Yeah.
It's so lucky we didn't even hear about it. I didn't even.
Have you not got Twitter?
No, I know about it. You haven't. No.
There's a press release due early next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of.
How exciting.
Yeah, so that's something that we've been involved
So
with.
what are you going to do with that isn't already being done?
Okay, that's
Well, I mean, for us, we don't see there's an organisation in the UK that represents the interests of the kind of new wave of craft beer that's emerging. So there's Cameron and Seba, which do their own thing, which is cool, but there's no one like
Yes.
the equivalent of the DA in America. So an organisation that promotes and protects the interests of UK crafters at home and overseas, and kind of shares knowledge within the business team.
So what will be like top 3 things you'll do as part of that?
We will organise one amazing UK-wide beer festival each year, which will be based loosely on something like the CBC in Copenhagen. We will put forward what we believe is the definition of craft beer, which we can then use with how was that? Demonic little laugh, right? Which we can then use with because you can't have a federation of craft brewers unless you define what craft
No,
beer
we're
is, because
looking
how
towards
do you decide what's in there? And then we're also going to share learning resources with the BA, so we're going to take advantage of what they do, incorporate some of that, and have one event each year where it's about sharing knowledge within the UK craft beer community.
I'm sorry, who did you say were the other key founders?
So it's been set up with Logan from Beavertown,
Yeah.
Jasper from Camden, and Richard from Magic Rock.
Are you still members of SEMA then?
No, I don't think so.
Right.
We have been intermittently, but we just got so frustrated that we didn't get your membership.
It took so long to do a cake competition. I remember I was going on about it to me years ago.
Alistair who?
Hook.
SAD? Oh, sorry.
I think he spent a lot more time fishing now.
Maybe some new rods.
Yeah,
Gone
definitely got some new
fishing.
rods, yeah.
I was really impressed with these facilities. My history with Brewdog goes back to 2007.
Yeah, I
when we
remember.
were 2 rather nervous young guys in a cellar in Glasgow,
Yes.
presenting their beers to a group of beer nerds, and you didn't have even have labels on the bottles.
Yeah.
Riptide and Punk IPA.
Yeah, I remember it. Just yesterday.
Did you have a vision of things getting this big?
I think we had a bit of a vision because it can't really happen by accident, but at the same time, this was like best case scenario, and we've always been really ambitious. And it's core. What we want to do is get other people as passionate about great beer as we are, and we realised we couldn't do that unless we made more beer and distributed more beer. So yeah, it was always something that we wanted to do, but I don't think we ever really believed that we could do it.
Or envisaged a room with that octopus in the
That's all we ever wanted to do.
Eye, the best.
Yeah.
It's a sprinkler, right?
Yes.
Speaking about early history, you got into the Swedish market quite early, like in 2008. How much did that mean to your early business?
We got listed by Systembolaget, which is the Swedish government monopoly, before we even knew what it was. And we just submitted a beer for a tender, and we ended up getting a phone call saying that we've got a listing with Systembolaget, and we're going to need, I think it was 100,000 litres next year. And at that time, we only had tanks to make 25,000 litres. So I was like, okay. Yeah, so we had to get some tanks in pretty quickly. But Sweden is our #1 export market. Punk IPA does really good things for us in Sweden. We're got a couple of bars, one in Stockholm, one in Gothenburg. So yeah, Sweden's our biggest export market. It's been our first export market, and we're with the same people from day one. So yeah, it's really